Before we go into the podcast, I want to just talk about a business that I've set up with my friend George. It is called the Podcast Introduction Group. So if you want to join and be able to be featured on 24 to 48 podcasts to be able to reach an amazing audience, this is the place you need to go to. Podcast, being a guest on podcasts, is automatically establishing you as an authority and is able to build your personal and professional brand. We handpick of a bank of podcasters that we have to be able to grow your business and brand. We do 100% of everything that needs to be done by my team. You do not need to lift a finger. You are able to expose yourself to new and relevant markets by going on other people's podcasts. You also are able to create brand loyalty. People will love listening to you and coming back to your products or services, and it's able to increase your revenue. So if you want to be able to get involved, you can sign up quickly, registered with an account manager. There's an onboarding call where we target the podcasts that you want to be on, the type that you want, whether it's entrepreneurship, business, health, fitness, whatever it is. We then match you to those podcasts and you can start your journey. We have regular catch-ups with our account managers, and Google ranks you when people search for you. So when people are searching for you, you're able to see your podcasts at the top of the list. So if you're interested in being a podcast guest on multiple podcasts, we are the place to go. If you go to podcastintroduction.com and go and register your details, we will have a quick call with you, match your podcast that you want to be on, and we can then start this process ASAP. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Back onto the podcast then. Just one last thing before we go into the podcast. I just wanted to talk to you about the fact that I have a YouTube channel that has been going for quite some time, and I am recording and releasing all of my interviews with some short videos as well on YouTube. So please do check it out. YouTube on Absolute Business Mindset. You'll see a bunch of interviews there, all the longer format interviews and some short videos as well. So please enjoy that. And here goes with the podcast interview. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, created and hosted by Mark Hayward. This podcast will interview entrepreneurs, business owners, and people in their careers. We will delve into their journey to success, key life milestones, and go deep into their area of expertise. Get ready to learn from other successes and failures. Today we have Emmanuel Anthony, who is a human behavioural specialist, speaker and consultant. Emmanuel, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So we'll go straight into the first question, which is, podcast is called Absolute Business Mindset. What does business mindset mean to you?
To me, business mindset, it's the mindset that we take into the business world, but it's a more holistic one that I have a look at. Because quite often when we look at business, we may think of finances, spreadsheets, and meetings and things like that. But the reality is, in 11 years of working with entrepreneurs, and I think close to 20 years of being an entrepreneur myself, one of the things I've noticed is it's the holistic approach of being able to create growth in all areas of your life and have a balance so you can continue to do what it is that you love, which is business and an expression of what you love, to the highest degree, and hopefully with longevity and very long into the future.
Do you think work-life balance is actually possible?
100%. It's something that I specialize in. So one of the first things that I noticed when I started as an entrepreneur was that the hours in the day got a little bit muddled. But as I did that, I got spontaneous feedback from my body, physiology and psychology, because I started to have brain noise. And then at the same time, I also started to notice fatigue, resentment, lack of appreciation, and a loss of value and appreciation for what it was that I was doing. So as I started addressing these feedbacks and creating more balance in my life and looking at all 7 areas of mastery, physical, financial, mental, spiritual, social, vocation, and family, I realized that we're going to have moments of imbalance, but we definitely have a level of control as to holding more moments of balance. And if we do that, that we don't have to sacrifice major things. So I've seen clients that make a large amount of money, then end up in a divorce and have to give half that money in the property and what they've done away. Whereas if they can have a level of mastery that allows for each of those areas throughout a week and have a strategy to do that, then allows you to feel more fulfilled, more energized, and it also increases, though, like I said, the chance of longevity. Because to have more energy every day and be excited to do what I love means I'm not going to try and retire very quickly. It's hard, but it's definitely doable. Okay.
So my usual structure, I would go straight into education, but I just want to pick on something that you said there, and then we'll go back to the structure. I read an article, this is probably 3, 4, 5 years ago, and it was on inc.com, and it said about the 7 areas of life. And I just want to delve into this. And it was a very simple, straightforward article, quick article, which said seven areas of life to master, right? There are 7, choose 3, do them well, to give up on the others. Because basically what they were saying was that you don't have enough time in your day to master all 7. Choose 3, do them excellently, and that could be business, it could be work-life balance, it could whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but choose 3, do them perfectly, do them really well, and then don't stress about the other ones. What's your thought on that?
That's ridiculous. If you were to take vocation, which is career, social, I'm just going to take, by the way, some structures have 8 areas of life, 10 areas. We're basically saying a deconstruction of the most important areas, but I'm going to call them 7.
Okay.
Let me take social, financial, and vocation, which is family. And if I only do those 3, but I forget about physical, now I increase the probability of having physical diseases throughout my life and not managing that area. So it doesn't matter how much money I make, I'm probably not going to be around long enough. If I take physical and social and financial, but I'm not doing a career that I love, then I lose the soul for what it is. That is, the purpose and meaning for getting up in the morning. Because those people that really do what they love and make a profound amount of money, generally they're really doing something that they love. That's why they're maximizing human potential. But if I sacrifice my relationship potential for divorce, if I sacrifice my mental health, then it doesn't matter how much money I make, I'm probably going to spend it on quick fixes and drugs and sex and rock and roll and all kinds of things. So the key is to understand that some areas are going to have more value and more growth than others. For example, I work 12 hours a day because vocation is super important to me. But my vocation is also my social. My favorite way of communicating is with people in an area that I love. I'm not into going out for beers and things like that. I don't drink. I stopped doing that after I worked at nightclubs in my teen years. So it's my vocation, my financial, my mental, my spiritual, it's my inspired mission. So it's hitting so many areas within that. And then I start and finish the day with relationship. So there's no reason why a person can't do that. It's about understanding that some areas have more value, but you've definitely got to consider those other areas. Otherwise, whatever you run away from, you run into. The areas where you create the biggest voids will create the biggest challenges for you later on for you to face.
Thank you. Thank you for that answer. It's been very, very comprehensive. So let's jump back to education. So what were you like at school? Did you enjoy it? Was it anything? I'm guessing not. But how was school life for you?
I'd say yes and no. One of the things that I've realized in the last few years of study is whatever's highest in your values, your most organized, disciplined, reliable, and focused 5 hours feels like 5 minutes, and you're disciplined and nobody has to tell you to do that. In primary school, I was inspired to socialize because I didn't speak a lot of English. I came to Australia and I was 4 and spoke fluent French, and I had trouble speaking English for a little while. So socializing, basketball, so it was physical sports, and art were the things that I loved. And anything other than that, I didn't. And I thought I wasn't great at those other subjects. It wasn't until I studied human behavior that I realized we optimize potential in the areas that are highest in our values. When I got to high school, it was very similar. And it wasn't until I really kind of mastered those areas, and then I wanted to create an inspired career and started working under my mentor, Dr. John Demartini, that I actually got inspired by mathematics, human behavior, psychology, and all of those fields. So I've done a full 360 in terms of what I'm interested in and gone from one extreme to the other. But I still have hobbies that are around those physical areas. My education originally started off around the arts field. So I attended industrial design and did that for about a year or two, found that it wasn't really my thing. So went into graphic design, completed that. I forgot what that was, a bachelor or whatever it was at university. opened up my own company for a few years. And as I did that, I realized what I was most inspired by was helping human beings. No matter what I did, I always ended up doing that around the mind and the body. So then I started going into as many courses as I could. $300,000 later, I studied NLP, timeline therapy, hypnosis, any qualification I could get until I led me to meeting Dr. John Demartini and studying the Demartini method. And that's what I specialize in today.
John Demartini is one of my favorite sort of training courses and influencer. He's an awesome guy. I've never met him, but big fan of his work. What for the people that my listeners that may not know John Demartini, why don't you tell us a little bit about him and what it was like working under him?
So meeting Dr. John Demartini for me was a profound moment that changed my life forever. At the time, I didn't have a lot of money and I was kind of attending any free workshops I could. So if Tony Robbins was in town and he had a free workshop before they sell up to their premium workshops, I'd attend and I'd listen and write notes like there was no tomorrow. Deepak Chopra, anybody that I could. I'd never heard of Dr. John Demartini until by chance, but I don't believe there is such thing as chance, but a friend of mine, behaviour, sent me a message and said, there's this guy called Dr. John Demartini coming to town, and I think you'd really resonate with some of his work. So I attended a workshop, and when I heard him speak, I have to be honest, I didn't know that you were allowed to be that smart. Because John was talking about human physiology, psychology, biology, astronomy, and he would just put them into a sentence and talk on stage. I mean, my mouth was open, my eyes were looking, and I thought, wow, now I know he's a polymath, which is somebody that has extreme knowledge in a multitude of areas of mastery, but I didn't know what that was at the time. So as he spoke about a method called the Demartini method, which being the Guinness Book record holder for most books read by a human being, he had formulated a range of his work and his knowledge into showing you how to balance your perceptions around anything. And I had a lot of baggage around my father and ex-girlfriend. So I said, I've got to attend this course. I don't know how I pulled the 3,000 and something together to attend this course, but when I attended it, he taught everything at the start to do with universal laws and the understanding of human psychology and his connection to the universe. That blew my mind in the first few hours. To be honest, it felt like he was speaking Japanese. Most of us in the audience were looking at each other like, what in the world are we here doing right now? And there was a thick manual. Then we went to completing the Demartini method, and I broke through, it's about 20-something years worth of baggage around my father permanently. I mean, there's 100 people in the audience. I'm learning a method and I break through 20-something years. And to date, which is, I did that when I was around 26, I'm 37, turning 38 on the weekend. That baggage has never come back. When that occurred and I let go of that, because that was one of the biggest things occupying the most time and space in my mind, I had a moment of presence where everything around me just went soft. And I looked at John on stage as I broke through the final piece of my father and I saw it. So that's what I meant to do with my life. I'm meant to be speaking, communicating, and sharing how people can create profound change in their life. And no matter what I did, because I also worked in retail and sold clothes and did sales and everything, I always tried to help people. So I said, I've been denying the undeniable, and this is what my journey is. So that man, in one speech, one presentation, changed my life. And that one workshop is the reason why I do what I do today. So not only is he the world's leading human behavioral specialist, Guinness Book record holder for most books read by a human being, he's a profound human being that just travels the world researching, writing, teaching, consulting, and helping millions of people to do what they love and love what they do and understand this experience we call life.
Have you met him? Have you face to face?
Yeah, plenty of time. I emailed John as a facilitator, so meaning that I specialize in the Demartini method. Not only do I assist people with the Demartini method, I teach the Demartini method and workshops around that. But when John's in town, sometimes I put my name up, because you can put your name up in certain places, and the institute grabs a whole group of facilitators and we help facilitate the workshops, like the breakthrough experience. So if there's 100 people there, we may be in charge of 6 or 7 people on a specific table to help them break through their biggest challenges, which it still blows my mind, because I went from 7 or 8 years ago, whatever it was, sitting in that workshop. And today I probably assisted at 7 or 8 breakthroughs and a couple of others workshops and help people to do the same thing and see them at the starting cycle of where I was.
Amazing. He's sort of describe him in my mind. He's just a super brain, isn't he? He talks so deeply and so like he connects with me whenever I see him on social media.
He's more superhuman than you could. I was just going to quickly say he's more superhuman than you think. I once was at a workshop where he was teaching for 13 hours that day, but he was also doing consultations on Skype before and after. So anyway, I got home and I couldn't sleep, and I was researching a little bit. And then I think it was about 3 or 4 in the morning, I messaged him and just sent him something funny in relationship to the workshop we had just done. And he replied instantaneously. And I just replied and said, "Do you even sleep?" He said, "I'll meditate for 2 hours today and I should be fine." And I just went, he's got another 13 hours of teaching and he's going to do more back to back. So he is a machine. Yeah. And not just that, like the travel, most people would, travel. If you travel to 3 different locations in the world in a week, you'd have jet lag. He does not have jet lag. He literally gets off a plane straight into a workshop, back on a plane into another one. So I don't know how he's optimized his body to be able to handle that kind of rigorous travel, because he literally travels all year round. And if he's not doing that, generally he goes on his ship. And he's got a ship called the World, the celebrities usually go to, and he goes on that and stays there for a couple of weeks as well. So he doesn't even stay on land sometimes when he gets some time off, which isn't really time off. He just does his writing and stuff. So I don't understand it. To me, he's something else.
Yeah, I would agree. So let's get into your expertise. So let's talk. What is a human behavioral expert?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Hi, I'm Alex, the host of X Health Show. Meet the future of healthcare. Think X-Men, that's X Health. Actual superheroes behind programming living cells to cure cancer once and for all. Tech that detects preterm delivery in seconds, brain-computer interface, or apps that employ AI to match you, your disease, with the best treatment. X Health Show brings to you visionaries who push the boundaries of healthcare from Switzerland, the heart of Europe and the most innovative country in the world. Let me introduce you to their startups. Head to X Health Show, meet the future of healthcare. Happy to greet you there.
So I specialize in human behavior, and especially in terms of, and it's why I loved this show being called, the business mindset. There's so many different aspects to business. And sometimes when I'm working with clients, I tell them, let's say they're in real estate. And they'll say, "What are you going to teach me about real estate?" So I'm not here to teach you about real estate. If I knew about real estate and human behavior, I'd be your boss. My job is to teach you the aspects of the things that are lacking, understanding human behavior and how you can optimize your own and understanding of yourself, as well as how you can understand other people, whether that's sales or taking down arguments or resolution, also how to maximize potential, get more out of stuff. I said, I'm that side of things. But that aspect of things can be applied to all 7 areas: physical, financial, mental, spiritual, social, vocation, and family. And in fact, we always start off with the mind before we get a chance to grow in those other areas. So to me, that's where all of that as a web connects. And that's why I've started in that area, because I find if we can grow in those areas, be mentally strong and resilient, we can grow and expand in all areas of life.
So are you saying whatever area or business or job or career that you have, if you've got the right mindset, you can achieve anything? You can achieve your dreams?
Correct. You can speed up the time frame in which you achieve your goals. And at the same time, you can also maximize your human potential and be realistic about how to do that. Because quite often people will think, I'm just going to think positively and that'll get me to my goal. No, it doesn't. Positive thinking is delusional. You're exaggerating the positive and minimizing the negative. You do that in the market and you don't look at the negative, you'll get taken advantage of, because people will sell you stocks and things that aren't worth it. You do it in a business, somebody will blow steam up your behind and you'll end up getting sold a dud. You do that with a vehicle or anything else, you're just looking at one side. The wisest people look at both sides so they have all of the puzzle pieces. So there are certain fundamentals, Dr. John Demartini calls them universal laws, and those universal laws are understanding of how the universe works, how we work as human beings in congruency with that. And then once you understand those fundamentals, we can build on top of that in order to set realistic expectations, maximize potential, but also have tools. Because one of the biggest challenges that people have in business is emotions. I work with entrepreneurs day in and day out, and they'll say, I had a good day on Monday, I had a bad day on Tuesday, I had a semi day on Wednesday. I said, you never had a good or bad day. You just had a day. But when things go the way that you're infatuated with, you call it good. And when things go the way that you resent, you call them bad. But both of those aspects are part of a business day. And until you can learn how to manage your emotions, as Warren Buffett said, don't expect to manage your money, because the volatility of your emotions will lead to the volatility of your decisions inside and outside of work. That's a holistic approach. But if you can manage your expectations and set yourself so neither support nor challenge get in the way of your inspired mission, but you know how to use both to maximize your potential and stay humble and centered, then it's just another day at work. But that's where it all ties in. It's a little piece of something bigger, but hopefully that explains it.
It does. I'll go into the universe and emotions in a minute. I just want to give you a shout out to your business, and maybe you can tell me the different aspects of your business. So your business that you set up was Quantum Equilibrium, which was, is it 10 years ago or something like that? Why don't you tell me what the different aspects of your business is?
So there's a range of different things that we do because we cater for the different needs of each of our individual clients. But if I look at the fundamentals of what a majority of people will come in for, a level 1 program takes the biggest challenges, trials, or tribulations that a person's going through. And I work with them one-on-one for 6 weeks. We start off by exploring all areas of their life to see not only how did they get to the challenge that they're in now, but also what is it in their past that's leading to their thinking and where they are. Once we've got a totality and a holistic look at the whole picture, from there, we can set hierarchies of importance, because we may find that a person, I met a Lebanese gentleman that I worked with in Melbourne, multimillionaire, very, very successful. His biggest challenge was a lot of the challenges he was having in his life were to do with his father. And people that reminded him of his father, that were creating very volatile emotions that were finding their way into the business world as well. He was finding he was getting angry at certain people and he have to manage his anger. So he balanced his perceptions. That was his biggest challenge around his father using the Demartini method. We dissolved all the resentment that he had built for 40 years, turned that into love and gratitude. And when he was done with that, he found that he was much more present during his day. So it was actually the stuff outside of work that was impacting his work that he wasn't managing. That's why when somebody says, you just manage 3 areas and not the others, that's a great way of having those other areas you're not managing sabotage your wealth and your business as well. It's tough, but it's also tough not to manage those areas and have volatile challenges in them too. You may as well fall forwards and manage them all to a certain degree instead of just hoping that they manage themselves. It's unrealistic. So with our level 1, we're working through the trials and tribulations. I'm assisting my clients at 10% to get the tools, but 90% of it, I'm trying to speed up the results that they're getting, and we're results driven in what we do. At level 2, I teach the Demartini method. It's 9 weeks of clients learning all of the tools to manage and balance their perceptions around any challenge that can occur within their personal or business life. And then our level 3 is called life mastery. There's a few aspects as business mastery, life mastery, kind of breaks out into a few hubs. But we take the tools that have been learnt at level 2 and we apply them to goal setting for the next 50 years so people can create a highly inspiring and fulfilling life in all 7 areas of life. The word fulfillment means to feel full. We're trying to fill all 7 areas so they can have the greatest level of fulfillment.
Amazing. That sounds, I get it. I do get it. So coming back to something which I must admit I struggle with is the impact of the universe on me. So I'm very goal orientated. I work, I was coaching people, business coaching people and how to grow their business, marketing, sales, building a business from the ground up. But I must admit the impact of the universe on me, I struggle with. If I was, this is gonna be a bit of a therapy session for bits and pieces.
I'll invoice you afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. But the impact of the universe, how just an individual of one person of 7 billion. What does the universe care about me? Why does the universe care about me?
Yeah, it's really a game of perspective. And I remember having a similar opinion to you one day when I must have been about 10 or 11, and I was swinging back and forth, and I got really high, and it was turning towards nighttime. And as I looked up, I kind of put my neck back, because if you do that while you're on a swing, it feels you lose your center of gravity. It feels quite scary, but fun at the same time. And I looked at the stars and I thought, wow, there's a lot of stars out there. Then I went further out and kind of out of our galaxy into the next one. I went, whoa. And I just kept going as far out as I could until I realized I was nothing but a speck of sand. And I asked myself, what do I really mean if I'm one speck of sand on a giant beach? And my original perception was this, and it led to the work that I do now, this, what's the purpose of life? What's the meaning? And then at first it was quite a depressive thought, I have to admit, because it was like, it felt like I meant nothing and I was replaceable, and another one of me could be born, and then not exactly the same, but it's just a repetitive cycle. And then as I started to study human behavior for Dr. John Demartini, I realized that nature has this very interesting entangled web where in every ecosystem, it's perfectly put together. And if you take one animal out of the ecosystem, it looks like it kind of goes a bit weird and dysfunctional, but then it goes back into a set of function in that. So it's optimized to have predator and prey and an ecosystem that sits within a certain way. And the universe is balancing itself or maintaining a state of balance. And there's an algorithm. So every ology, whether it's physiology, psychology, biology, doesn't matter what you're studying, there's always a mathematical algorithm that sits behind that explains how that works and the divine perfection behind it. And as I studied that divine perfection of Dr. John Demartini, I realized this universe is amazing, and every single thing within this universe has reason, meaning, and purpose. And when we fulfill that reason, meaning, and purpose, we have symptomology within our human body that expresses that. So in other words, if you are doing what you love and loving what you do, you get rewarded with energy and vitality. But if you do things that are lowering your values and things you dislike, don't appreciate, that are not most meaningful to you. So if I went and tried to do cake decorating for 12 hours, 3 days a week, I would procrastinate, hesitate, and frustrate. So I started to realize that the universe was communicating through my physiology and my emotions. And if I understood what it was communicating, I could actually take the time to alter and change my states. And then I started to figure, how could I do that to the greatest degree? And as I did that, I realized I'm being rewarded when I do what I'm placed on this planet to do. And every human being has a unique set of values. No two people have the same values. You and I can both be interested in human evolution, development, growth, or business, but the way I want to express it will be different to yours. So unless we go out and share that with the world never gets to see it. And whatever is not fulfilling its purpose, it's either growing or dying. We have cell entropy where we die on the inside. And that's the same with nature. Nature doesn't have holidays. You go outside and have a look at your plants. They are either growing or dying. They're the two states that they're in. And from that, I realized that I am one grain of sand on a large beach. That is true. But I'm also the whole beach. And I'm something that's very powerful. And there's this connection to the universe that rewards me when I do what I'm here to do. So I do that. I'm a man who's searching for fulfillment. And the more I do it in 7 areas, the more fulfillment I get, the more inspiration, and the more people I get to serve. So I can't say I know 100% the meaning of life, but I can definitely listen to the symptoms. And working with thousands of clients and seeing them awaken that inside themselves as well, they end up with an aging process that minimizes, because people that do what they love and love what they do start to look ageless, whereas people that are highly stressed and not doing what they love, they look full of age. So there's definitely something in there, and I'm continuing to study it. But you're here to do something amazing, fulfilling, and inspiring, and you're here to do it within all 7 areas. And your mind and your body are communicating. Sometimes you just don't understand what it's communicating. I think that may be the case with what you're saying.
We are hugely emotional creatures in business as well. As you were saying, there might be harboring negative emotions that you carry around with you. But as a business person, how do you master your emotions for running a business? Let's just take this as a case, or like a case study as one person. So if you're looking at someone that is maybe struggling with their emotions, how do you help people within I know you look at holistic and you look at the 7 areas, but I just want to drill down for emotions for a business person. How would you approach helping someone that has emotional distress or emotional trauma?
Well, I've got two different aspects of that. The first one, I know you didn't ask for it, but I'll just explain how it impacts business. If you're emotional in general, you're adding a little, we call it GST here in Australia, which is like our tax. You're adding GST that's unnecessary to your day because it's the equivalent of you and I saying, let's walk a kilometer each, but I decide to carry 100 kilograms worth of baggage with me, rocks. You're going to get there faster than I am. Mm-hmm. So if you're emotional during your day, you're doing extracurricular activities while trying to run a business. It's hard enough to run a business and be successful, and add that. Whenever we add emotions, they create brain noise and they occupy time and space in our minds. Our minds are like hard drives. If you check your hard drive right now, it'll say 60% images, 20% photos, 30% files. If 70% of that or a huge percent is emotions, you're only 30% working. So that's the first thing to do with emotions in general. By the way, if you guys see me looking down, that's where you are. And if you see me looking up, that's where the DSLR is in that. So I like to do a little bit of both. But I'll give you a case study. So I worked with a gentleman in his first entrepreneurial pursuit. He created a soccer business for kids. And he created that business, wasn't very successful. Nothing new. Most entrepreneurs in their first year are pretty unrealistic in our expectations. We think we're going to go out there and make millions of dollars. We realize we're the graphic designer, the PR, where he was a soccer trainer. He had so many hats that he had to master. It was going to take time, baby steps to get to where he wanted to. But because that had occurred when I was working with this particular client who came in to work on some stuff around his father and let go of emotions, when we got to the business aspect and really what he wanted to do with his life, he wasn't giving himself permission to play a bigger game due to past fears of what had occurred in business and judgments of himself, and then anxieties of what he perceived may occur in the future. We did a half an hour process utilizing the Demartini method to take what he perceived as stressings and showed him the blessings in that, to show him that he hadn't stuffed up. It was on the way, not in the way. Then we took that happening in the future and showed him the benefits equal to the drawbacks. He created a business that made 6 figures monthly within a year of that. And he wasn't even ready to go into business. He had to let go of that fear first. So that's a great example of how your fears and your perceptions of what you perceive may or may not occur, or anxieties, are all feedbacks. And if you don't address them, you're adding that 100 kilograms worth of weight with you. And you also create limiting beliefs, minimize what you're worth, and end up in this bipolar emotional state, which generally leads to drinking after work, overeating, a range of other things. Once again, extracurricular activities that take you away from being highly fulfilled and taking on the massive, inspiring business of business.
Thank you. And who was your inspiration in your teenage years? Was there a sportsman? Was there a writer? Who was that inspiration in your teenage?
Michael Jordan.
Definitely
Michael Jordan. Yeah, just a juggernaut. His work ethic, in a way, his cockiness, because he was around when you called it for what it was in basketball, and you played every game 100%.
Yeah.
His results. You looked at Michael Jordan, 6 titles. I think it was in all the finals he went in, I think it was 6 out of 6. That's why they call him the GOAT, greatest of all time. But it was definitely Michael Jordan. There were other basketball players and people I looked at, but he was just somebody that I looked at in terms of exemplifying success and what it looked like. Yeah.
Great, man. The Netflix series was amazing.
Amazing.
Absolutely incredible.
I mean, how much did he was on another level compared to everybody else. Like, it was whatever it took to win and to make everybody else great. And he didn't care whether they liked him or not. He just knew what needed to be done. So just that mindset was crazy to see. And I don't know if you know this, but Jordan did not do interviews. He's a very private man. So that interview and the way that he spoke and he shared his information, that was the first time publicly he's let people in like that. So yeah, that's why it was such a big deal to people like me who were there, who in Australia, I would have to stay up till 2:00 in the morning to watch a basketball game, which had very average reception at times. And they didn't even play the full game. They kind of played snippets here and there of it, but I would stay up just to watch the 20 minutes or whatever they had of the finals, and every finals that they actually decided to play on TV. It was profound.
And what is it with great men that have trouble with relationships? So it's catalogued throughout especially recent past, but people that are that obsessed with being great. For example, something that's jumping into my mind is Nelson Mandela. Obviously, a hugely great influence, positive influence in politics, and was an incredible man, but was flawed in his relationships with his wives, with his family, with his children. What is it with some of these great men that struggle with relationships?
Well, it goes back to that initial conversation that we said. It's tough to master all 7 areas of your life. It's even more challenging when you're in the spotlight to that degree. The interesting thing about being a celebrity or somebody that has that level of attention onto you, once you start making a great amount of finances, I always say that if you haven't managed your mental states, then you've far exceeded in some areas, but you're not prepared to go into those areas as well. And if you're not having at least a foundation in all 7 areas, then anything that is a little problem becomes a massive problem immediately. To be honest, in many of the relationships that I've worked with and I've seen in general, if we look at our statistics, I think they're showing the divorce rates for most countries are about 60% anyway. And I'd say another 10% are potentially doing an affair. So I've spoken and discussed a deeper sense of something that is animalistic inside of us, which is that there's a desire in us to continue to evolve. And that evolution in this animal form also at times feels that it wants to transition from one partner to another. And society doesn't want to hear that because they want to have the delusion of marriage and happily ever after and all of those things. But quite often when you have men that are of extreme power, that aspect of their mind can also be interested in a range of different women because they're used to like this hunter-gatherer, this very prehistoric part of them that is used to going, setting goals and achieving. And that also is involved with women and relationships and things like that as well.
How does it work for women as well? Because women, some great women struggle as well.
Oh, 100%. And it goes back to those 2 same principles also. And at times it can be because that aspect is a very masculine part of you, the part that goes out to, if you see a tiger and take it on and all those things, business is very masculine in that. And men and women have both masculine and feminine parts of us. Sometimes we express more of one than the other, but there are women in the business world that are very masculine in their approach, and they also have those masculine parts that feel that. But there's a range of different ways you can answer that too, because it would be a challenge for any of us to date somebody. If you were dating a woman and she was making $1 million a day and you were making $250,000 a year, it's a whole different lifestyle as well. In that. So that degree of empowerment and growth can lead to some very interesting challenge. I think a lot of people think if I get rich, my life will be perfect. No, you have a whole range of different set of challenges when you exemplify that area of life and growth that you could not even imagine that come with that. So you've got to be so mentally strong to be able to deal with those things and all of the challenges that comes with that level of spotlight, that level of finances and the management of all those things.
100%. How are you using technology to reach a larger audience?
Well, there's the usual, which is marketing and such. I personally love Facebook Lives and videos and having conversations. In what used to be group presentations and going out, that's obviously due to COVID now, being online and communicating to people through Zoom and that kind of thing, whether it's one-on-one or one-on-many, so one-on-one like we're doing now, or being hired for one-on-many. So that's been the main form in doing that. But to be honest, I started doing that 6 years ago, 8 years ago when I moved to Sydney from Melbourne. In Melbourne, I had a beautiful office in an area called Toorak, one of the affluential areas there. It was beautiful to walk to. There was really beautiful houses all around it, amazing cars. It was really an inspirational place to work. 90% of my clients were in person because that's where I built my kind of social network. When I moved to Sydney, because I met my fiance, who was my girlfriend at the time, I took 99% of my business online and altered my model. And I remember, which is funny to say now, but there were a range of people in my field that said, "What are you doing? That doesn't sound like it's going to work. People will go face to face." And I said, no, people want to sit at home after work. They don't want to drive through traffic to see me. They want to sit at home in their trackies and have me come to them. So I altered the model and did that. So I have to admit that a lot of the things that I'm doing today are just slightly more advanced in the way that we do it to things that I've been doing for all these years, because this was the new platform. People just want to be able to pick up their mobile phone and have any service that they possibly can on here. And the easier that it is to get to in their most comfortable places at home, wherever it is, that's what they're interested in. So I try and meet people where they're already at.
My wife is a therapist, and I'm just in what proportion of what you do is based on therapy versus other aspects? Because you're, from what you said, when you're working with one-to-one people, you're trying to understand any trauma or sadness or things that are holding you back. Do you use what type of skills do you use when it comes to therapy?
Yep. So the Demartini method will be the main form that I use in that. And it's really directly proportionate to what specifically we're working on. But anytime someone comes to see me, there generally is some challenge, usually emotional or things like that. So we're dissolving the major challenges first, utilizing the Demartini method. The reason I use that is because it's a results guaranteed method. So whatever we're working on, if it's a person that's got 5 years of grief, that grief has to be dissolved. That's actually the purpose of the method, nothing less than that. So it's not a talking therapy per se. As compared to when I'm working with a group and doing a talk, it's more of a presentation, but quite often afterwards, people will then work with me one-on-one on the specifics of their challenges. But those challenges can be very different. I'm working with 2 clients at the moment to help them grow their business and understand the fundamentals of business because it's their first time stepping in as entrepreneurs. I've got other clients that are working on emotional baggage they've had for 50 or 60 years. One lady in reference to her mum. So we're dissolving that. We should have that complete in about 4 weeks. So in the 7 areas, people will come to me with different perceptions of what they need resolved and what they need to learn in terms of skills and tool sets so they can manage future challenges similar or different to that as well. So we're not just dissolving what they come with in the 7 areas, we're equipping them with the tools to be able to be self-sufficient and not need me anymore to do that. That's true self-empowerment to me. If they're over-reliant on me, they haven't created a solution, they've created a dependence. Whereas true self-empowerment is where we teach them tools and techniques, the Demartini method, where they're actually able to then go out, get clear on what that future challenge is, understand what tools need to be utilized, and then work on that. I'm available. I leave myself open for my clients if they want to have a conversation because there's 7 areas of mastery. You never know what challenge you're going to get into, but I want to know that 90% of future challenges, they've got the tools for that.
So do you have reoccurring clients that come back to you every couple of years?
Yeah, so we've had some amazing contracts with the government. We work with the Aboriginal community and some very high up execs within that area. So we've been working together for, I think we said about 6 years. We've got actually a consult tomorrow morning with one of the ladies, but we were celebrating 6 years of working together. I've got some clients that have been with me for as long as 7 years, just straightforward and all the way through. I've got other clients that every 1.5 to 2 years, they come back because life is about evolution and growth. So what challenges they were facing a couple of years ago, now they're ready to upgrade and find out what else I've got that's available, new programs. So a lot of clients chip and chop and come in and out. They'll do levels usually 1 and 2 or 1, 2, and 3, go out and do their own thing, or they do our yearly mastery program. But we do what's called an hour of power every month, and we set very lofty goals in all 7 areas and hold them accountable to that and actually work on the key challenges that pop up in the way of that to keep them in the direction of achieving what's most inspiring in all 7 areas. So at the end of the year, it's not just, like you said, 3 areas are doing well, but there's an accountability for all 7 areas to have the most profound year that they can have.
Amazing. And what's the plan for the next 2 to 5 years for you?
Well, definitely stepping down in terms of consulting. I'd like to half the consulting that I do as my fiance steps in, and she'll take over the other half, and then we'll hire a few staff members. We used to do it when we were in Melbourne, but I'm definitely excited about doing that. And I want to take more of a Steve Jobs kind of role. Start working on some bigger vision projects in terms of things that we want to do, especially with the virtual spaces that are coming out at the moment. I feel that there's room to have a virtual office, one of which anybody can join from around the world and actually have a waiting room so you can come in and everybody sees the same office. To me, that's very, very exciting. So there's some bigger picture things in reference to the business that I'd like to work on while I just groom a few aspects of how we do things and really specialize them and just spend the rest of my time researching, writing, teaching, and just shaping all of our courses.
Amazing. Okay, we're coming to the end of the interview. I ask the same 6 questions to all of my guests. They're quick-fire questions. They don't need a quick-fire answer. They've been described as being a little bit thought-provoking, and all of this is unprepared, just to let everyone know. First question is, what's the best decision that you made?
I'd easily have to say attending that workshop to see Dr. John Demartini speak. That created a profound change and insight and awoken me to another side of the universe that I knew existed, but I wouldn't be here today if I hadn't attended that workshop and taken on that invite. So that to me is one of the best decisions.
Amazing. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
Do what you love and love what you do. We're here to do so many things. We're here to manage our perceptions, to grow and evolve, to manage all 7 areas. But if I give one piece of advice, is just do what you love and love what you do. Go to www.drdemartini.com, click on the values section, complete your values determination. It'll give you insight into what's most valuable, meaningful, inspiring, what gives you the most energy and vitality in life. And just do that every month, every 4 weeks, do that. And you'll start to accumulate data on what your life's showing. And if you take your top highest value and do that with most of your life, or most of that month, your second highest value, second most, and third, you'll see a surge in energy, vitality. You'll maximize your potential. You'll decrease disease within your body. There's so many things you can do, but do what you love and share that with the world. What would the world be like if Michael Jordan hadn't shared his unique gift? I mean, there's a great example of that. So give yourself permission to be MJ, but in whatever it is that you love to do.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Who's helped you most in your career?
I'd have to say my father comes to mind in that, which is interesting because the second thought was Dr. John Demartini, but the first part of my life was interesting challenges and volatility with my father. And I've since then realized from working with thousands of clients over 11 years now, the clients that had the greatest volatility growing up end up being entrepreneurs because they have a high amount of resilience. It was like a life training from when they were younger. So I definitely have to say my father. What I originally thought was stressings were inspired blessings that pushed me in the direction of being, dedicated to study human behavior. I didn't know how to talk to him, so I was obsessed with trying to figure that out. But later on, I discovered that all the things I was learning about were things that I'd actually turn into a career. So I definitely say my father.
Thank you. Do you have any regrets?
No. I've had different regrets throughout my life, but as they pop up, I bring them into balance, because if I have a regret, I have an imbalanced perception that something that occurred in my life, A, should have occurred differently. So that increases the potential of being depressed about that, because depression comes from comparisons. And B, I'm not seeing the divine magnificence in it. Whatever's occurred within my mortal life, there's nothing that my immortal soul can't love. It's just a matter of me taking the time and bringing balance to it. So there's no regrets at all. I wouldn't change a thing, because we quite often think if I change this and that would be different. But this journey that we're living is one of the most, I loved video games when I was younger. This is the coolest damn video game I've ever played, this thing called life. It's just every day you wake up and you never know what can happen and everything gets thrown at you. I'm just grateful to be here. I've almost died 8 times, for people that don't know that in the show as well. So I honestly am just grateful to be here. I don't have a chance to regret when I'm just grateful to be here and still be able to play this game.
Sorry, I'm going to jump out. You've nearly died 8 times. Sorry, yes. I need to just delve into this a little bit. You can't just drop that bomb and not follow up with anything.
I think it's so normal for me to say that, but I forget to other people, they go, 8, hold on a second, you got one more as a cat. So I've had both of my lungs pop, left and right. They call that a spontaneous pneumothorax, one in year 10 and one in year 12. I was rushed to hospital. I was in a couple of car crashes, one of which I almost went flying over a bridge in a friend's sports car and like over the rail into water. So that was interesting. And then I just had some very weird experiences. There's about 2 of them. These are going to sound dramatic, but I can't explain these either. One situation where I was walking kind of opposite a car park, and an old lady, she must have been 70 or 80 or something, stepped on the accelerator in the wrong direction, but I don't know why she stepped on it as hard as she did. Car went flying over what was like a little gutter or whatever it was. The car came towards me. I was in a 3-piece suit, but I just remember my instinct saying jump and slide over the car. So I jumped, slid over it, landed, and the car didn't end up hitting me. So I had a situation there. And then when I was younger, I remember I was about to cross the road and something pushed me. There was nobody in front of me, nobody within, I'd say, a kilometer of where I was, because it was near the school where I grew up. And as I was about to walk across the road with my earphones on, very similar to these, I got shoved. And I kind of looked around, there was nothing there, and a car goes flying past me. And it's going 100 Ks in what would now be known as a school zone. So it's generally about 50. Yeah, now I'm in there where I live, they shortened that down kilometers per hour. But it was doing what would have been 60 at the time, so almost double that speed limit. And I've got no reason as to why I was pushed, because I can't tell you what it was. I'm not going to get into any spiritual realm or anything else, but there's been a range of different experiences in my life, some of which I can explain, surgeons working on me, and others that I can't. So I feel that if I had that many near-death experiences and I'm still here, I'm here to do something, because I don't believe in.
What's the message that the universe is trying to tell you?
Well, if you ask what my perspective on it, it's to do what I'm damn here to do. Do it, and do it with everything I have, because something, I'm an atheist by belief, but something out there, some, I won't say it's a creator or whatever. I like to believe in science. I like to think that I want to see the evidence, but however this whole magnificence is put together, I feel like something's keeping an eye on me and wanting me still in the game. It doesn't want to bench me yet, because I have something to offer. So that's why every day that I get up, I do this to the greatest degree, and I work 12 hours a day to share this with humanity, because I feel I'm blessed to be here. And I've got 8 powerful reasons to remind me of that every single day.
Absolutely. Well, what an amazing story. Just one last thing, because this is just fascinating. How did you know to jump over the bonnet of the car?
It was a split second. It was actually, there's more to the story, so you'll laugh at the next part. I was texting on my phone, and I heard the woof, kind of like the car speed. And when I did, I wouldn't even be able to count to 1. But I've been an athlete for most of my life. I played basketball growing up. I did jumping programs, and my instincts have been to, I play golf now, which is the opposite. The ball's just standing in front of you. But most of my life, I've had to adjust or move or do something in accordance to what's happening in front of me. And I feel like I've specialized my skills to do that, because I always trained more than I played. I used to train for at least 5 hours minimum a day from grade 3 to year 11. So when the car was coming towards me, a part of me just reacted to it because of the angle in which the car was coming. I was in halfway between the car, but I felt it was coming round the side. And if I jumped and hit the bonnet, based on the speed in which the car was coming, my mind just thought, I've got to slide off that. By doing that, it's going to hit me, but I'm going to move up and off it. That car actually ended up not just past me, but a good meter past me as well. So if I hadn't have jumped, I either would have been under it or hit and over it. So they're the only 2 options that I had in that. But the funny part of it was, it happened so quickly that when I landed in the 3-piece suit, I kind of had my phone still there, and I stopped and fixed my tie. It felt like a James Bond movie. Like I should have just taken a little, thing with a silencer, not even looked at her, just gone gangster on it, and just done 2 shots to the head and then put it back in. But I realized later that the reason I fixed my tie was because as the adrenaline rushed through my body, I didn't actually realize what had occurred in that moment. And the minute that I realized it had occurred was as I was fixing my tie. It was just like this dazed moment where I was like, what just, I was trying to put the puzzle pieces together because it was so, interesting.
Yeah.
A range of people, because there was a whole bunch of cars, and people were slowly getting out of their cars and their mouths were open. And I went, oh, okay, yeah, no, that definitely happened just then. And as I'm looking at them and they're looking at me and their mouths are kind of open, one lady turns around and goes, she almost killed you. And then I snapped out of it. And before that, I just done a whole weekend workshop learning it was my original learnings, but it was a method called timeline therapy. It was around balancing your emotions. And we've been looking at the different emotions you experience, adrenaline for anxiety and all those things. So it was a really surreal experience, because as this lady was talking, she kept trying to project her story onto me. That lady almost killed you. She shouldn't be on the road. She was saying all these things. And I was thinking to myself, they have to be the worst things you can say to somebody that just went through that experience. Why would you be telling me that? So a part of me was psychoanalyzing it and going, you're projecting something that experienced to you. And then she said to me, a friend of mine got hit by a car only a month ago. People like that shouldn't be on the road. And I went, okay, I see what it's bringing up for you. Nice. So I ended up having to have to calm that lady down, check on the older lady, and then I left the scene and went and got a decaf coffee and told the coffee person I usually attend like half an hour later. And they said, how are you feeling? I said, my heart's racing. I can feel the adrenaline. That's not going to go anywhere for at least another couple of hours. But it was a very interesting situation to be in, especially after attending that workshop. I had to use all the tools I'd learned in that workshop just to calm myself down and then understand what was happening around me. But yeah, why I grabbed my tie to make sure it was still okay and my suit, I don't know. It baffles me today.
You've watched all the James Bond movies. You just want to find it out, didn't you?
It's, the weirdest thing would be for somebody watching it. Because like you said, they would have gone, he just jumped the car and just checked that his suit was okay.
It really would be like a computer game. Like, you just jump over the body. It's amazing. All right. I want to be respectful of your time, so I just want to rattle through the last few of these quick fire questions. You took me on a tangent I wasn't expecting to go 5 minutes ago, so thank you for that.
No problems.
What are you most proud of?
If I just put it into one totality, it's my life. My family came here with 2 children, one in the oven, as they say, from a Mauritian third world country actually called Rodrigues, and not a lot of money. And my father doesn't know a lot about emotions or anything like that. So the journey that we took as a family, because my dad's built some amazing wealth, the journey that I took to get to where I am now, once again, after you've almost died 8 times, that walking down the, what do they call it, the tunnel and seeing the light, I've done that 3 times in my life. I've also signed pieces of paper going into operations. So I forgot to say I've also had a tumor cut out of my kidney or liver. So they cut through the abdominal because there was a tumor in there, non-cancerous, but the biggest one they'd seen in that area. In each of these moments that I've gone through in life, to be where I am right now, I see people that have gone through half of what I've been through and are very traumatized by that. So I think I'm just proud of my life and who I am as a person and what I give myself permission to do. And that's not because I'm better than anyone else. It's just because I'm proud of it. And if I'm not going to be proud of it, who is going to be? I get to live myself all the time. If I don't say thank you and I love you to myself, I think that's going to be the greatest shame.
That's 100% true. What does legacy mean to you?
At this point in time, definitely children. So, if I was to be raw and honest with your audience as to a place where I'm at the moment, my fiance and I for 2 years, I think we're going on to 3 years, I've been trying to have kids. And it's just not happening for us. So we're about to move to a process called IUI. But I definitely, about 3 years ago, when we started this process and we had 1 miscarriage, and that really brought the idea of legacy to me because for a month, it was 3 weeks when I first got told the news. I don't know if you've got children, but I cried. My fiance told me, at first I thought she was joking because she's a bit of a joker like myself. When she showed me that little thing that had the 2 lines on there, I didn't know what that meant. I'd never seen that before. But then once I realized what she was showing me, I remember kind of not knowing what my emotions or feelings around that were. And then I went into the shower and I just broke down crying when I was by myself. And that was the first moment that legacy didn't just mean what I'm doing now with humanity, but creating a little human of my own where everything that I've learned, I can give to them and they'll do whatever they want with it, but an opportunity to help them have a perspective and way of looking at the world and solving its challenges that I would have loved to have when I was younger. So they're the 2 elements. It's my mission on planet Earth and sharing that with humanity, but then also with my family and my future children. They're the 2 aspects of legacy for me now.
Well, good luck with that. Like my fingers are crossed and toes crossed. I've got 2 young daughters, and they bring equal amount of joy as well as frustration, and that's just kids. So good luck with that. Fingers crossed that you get.
Thank you. Yeah, I can say that you're a girl dad, like Kobe Bryant. He loves being a girl dad.
2 girls. I have to talk about emotions in a level which I hadn't done before. And equally, I had an older brother as well, so it wasn't even I had sisters. So can
I quickly say that's actually like why I want a girl as well, because I had a sister and a brother, but I'm a boy's boy with my brother. So the reason I actually am really excited at the potential of having a daughter is kind of the same as you, where one, it's the time I feel I didn't spend with my sister, but secondly, there's a whole different experience that I think I'm not aware of, and it would really cause me to change as a human being. So when I hear you say that, it definitely lights up a bit of my heart to kind of go, there's somebody else that understands what I would like to go through, the pain and the pleasure of that.
So I was a rugby union guy. I played like to relatively high standard and was all like into sport, and it was all men's sport and stuff like that.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, and it was just weird. I ended up with one daughter that she changed my life, and then another one came along and she changed my life in a different way. And that's the beauty of kids, is that they teach you as much as you teach them.
I thoroughly agree with that. Yes,
they really do. They've changed my perception of things, about all sorts of things, like women in work, dealing with emotions and how to sort of support them. It's a wonderful experience. They equally are, like, just keeping it real, we're like equally frustrating, and you're just like, oh my God, making decisions that just, but that's the beauty of it. There's always got to be good and bad at the same time, isn't there?
It doesn't matter. If we had boys, it'd be the same as well.
Oh, exactly.
We'd want them
they'd be fighting all the time.
Yeah, we'd want them to be miniature versions of the sports that we played, but better. But then we'd be kicking their butts to get higher up than we do. So I agree with you. You're going to have pain and pleasure each way. May as well love the one that you have.
Exactly. All right. Thank you. Last thing. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you?
So one of the greatest ways I like to connect with people is what we call a 20-minute discovery call. Whatever challenges you're going through, if you have specific goals that you're inspired to achieve, a virtual coffee, if you want to call it that, because we can have a video call wherever you are around the world and have a conversation about where you are, what your biggest challenges are, what your specific goals are. And I can share with you how you got there, what specifically is going on, and what the steps are to transition out of that, and what time frame and results we can achieve. So I'll leave that in the notes with you so that anybody—
Is it on your website? Is it on your website?
Yes. So this basically, I'll give you a link that you can add, and that link will just take people to my calendar, and then they can book themselves in from there. But that's one of the greatest ways that people can connect. Otherwise, my social media platforms, so Facebook, etc., I'll also hand them over to you so people can connect. I do videos on a weekly basis, just discussing all of the different areas of life, trials, tribulations, and solutions.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your story. It's been absolutely fascinating speaking to you. Good luck with everything in the future. And wish you all the best of luck in the world.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been inspiring to be here and enjoyable at the same time as well. So it's about 10 o'clock here. I'm going to go and cuddle up with the missus, have a good shower and finish off the night. But thank you very much for having me.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot.